everyone, my name is Michelle White and this is my tutorial on the Datalist application. Today in this tutorial we're going to quickly cover how do you create a data list, how do you add content, how you delete content, and just kind of go over the overall function of really what a data list is. Now there is another tutorial that does a deep dive on integrations. But again, today you guys, we're really just going to give you that basic overview of what to even use a data list for. So as you guys can see in my sort of test environment here, I do have two data lists. I have quarterly goals and then I have beers on draft. As you can see to you guys, as I hover over these icons, I do have a security property. So let's just say I have multiple data lists and I have somebody, helping me out, sort of update content on my digital screen. Maybe I want to give them access to the data list, but I'm like, you know what? I don't want you touching the quarterly goal. I'll just sort of manage that myself. So I can come into the security property and sort of hide that data list from that particular user. You can edit the list. So again, I can click on the icon here. Otherwise, you can just double click in. Either way is fine. It's just up to you on sort of, what works best. The settings icon, that's the manage integration. So that's kind of that separate tutorial. And then of course, deleting the particular data list. Now, what do data lists get used for? A lot of people use data lists as directories. So maybe they have, one column that just has the professor's name, and then the second column obviously has the room number. Another scenario, another example would be like a menu board. Again, menu board has the item, like says hamburger, then it has the price, and maybe, they'll give you the calories. Another option would be sort of like corporate information where they're doing, planned hours, or they're sort of distributing employee, like shift changes. Something where it might look exactly like an Excel file, but they're sort of trying to auto-populate it. That's kind of where that manage integration comes in, the information. So that would be some examples of when we would use a data list. So let's go ahead together in this tutorial. Let's just create a simple directory. So the first thing we're going to do, you guys, is we're going to hit create data list, and then we're going to give this list a name. So let's just call it directory. You could copy multiple data lists if you wanted to. That usually comes more in handy when we're dealing with custom touchscreens, or even menu boards. I kind of find myself sort of using that. But now we're going to give down here where it says column name. So if you're kind of referring to an Excel file, if you can sort of picture this Excel file, and column A, you have the professor names, and then column B is the room number. This is essentially what we're creating here. So column name, that first column is I'm just going to put name, but again, it could be employee name, it could be professor name, whatever directory we're sort of, customizing to. But again, I'm just going to keep it simple. I'm going to call it name. Now you're going to deal with width. Now, don't sort of lose sleep over this or anything like that. Basically, each column, again, I'm referring to an Excel file, has sort of a repetition of a width. That's basically allows you to see, how much information, within the Excel file, within the width size. So as a default, for whatever reason, I always just put 20. I usually do 20 on my first one, and then after that, I just do 0. There's no real direction why I do it the way I do it. It's just kind of the way I was taught, so that's kind of the way I'm going to teach you. So again, we have name, we have 20. Again, this will probably make a little bit more sense once we get the data list created too, by the way. And then you want to choose type. So as you guys can see, we do have a lot of options here. Now, 90%, maybe 95% of the time, you are going to use text. Usually it's going to be a name, it might be a room number. Otherwise, if it's a menu board and you have price, you might want to say that, hey, that column is always going to be, a dollar value, so you might use money. But a lot of the times, all these other ones, data list, date, double image, this is always going to refer to the custom touchscreens. So like I said before, you guys, 95% of the time, you're going to use text, and then you may occasionally use money depending on what you're using your data list for. So I'm going to go ahead and hit text, and then I'm going to hit add column. So it's nice that it kind of gives you this little summary right here just to kind of confirm, like, okay, your first column is going to be called name, it's going to be text information, and you're giving it a width of 20. So let's go ahead and add our second column here. So it's going to be the room numbers. So I'm just going to put room. Again, I could spell out room numbers if I wanted to, but I'm just kind of keeping it simple. And again, for whatever reason, you guys, I just do 0 as my second time. If I had another column, I would still do 0. If I had a fourth column, fifth column, I'd still do 0. And again, it is just numbers here, so I'm just going to do text. I'm going to hit add column. I'm just sort of looking at this to over and out that, okay, I've got my right information here, and I'm going to hit create list. All right, you guys, as you can see, the directory was created. I did get like a nice little notification down below. So let's go ahead and sort of double click in here and sort of see what we've got kind of cooking. So again, I can double click in, or I can just hit that icon, whatever works for you. And then now you can see we have the name column that you and I have established, and then we have the room column. So let's just go ahead and enter some information in. So we have edit column, so maybe if you spelt name wrong, or if you're like, oh, you know what, I do want to put room number, you can simply go to edit column here, select that particular column, and then just give it, you know, room number, you know, whatever information you want, and then I'll just hit update column. And then you guys can see it automatically adjusts. So that's kind of where you would use edit column. If you wanted to add another column, so I don't know what we would use for directory if we wanted to add another column, but if this was like a menu board where it said item and then price, you know, maybe I do want to add those calories. So again, I could just hit add column. But to add information, so let's go ahead and just enter some data in here. Okay, so I put in Michelle White, room 123. Let's add another one here. All right, so some simple information. You can see how easy that was, right? I just hit add row. If I wanted to edit any of the information, maybe Michelle moved from 123 to 127, there's two ways I can do that. The simple way is I just kind of click in right away, 127, I click away, it's automatically saving. This icon right here will just bring it up as well. So two ways to edit, it's kind of whatever works for you. To describe that 20%, if you guys remember, I was kind of describing the width of the column. So by myself putting 20%, this is the width of the column. You know, if for whatever reason I had really, really long names, it would sort of get cut off right here. And so maybe I would need to adjust that, right? Maybe I'm like, oh man, you know, 20% was not good enough. Again, if I went to edit column, I could simply just come in here and type in a new value and then just hit update. And you can see how this kind of kicked to the right. So it's a little bit easier visually to see what I was referring to when I was kind of tackling the width. But I do find that if you do the first column 20 and then the rest 0, it does seem to be sort of a good balance. So that's kind of why I didn't want you to get too sort of bent on that. So a couple other things, you guys, within the data list, you can change the order too. So maybe I want this to be in alphabetical order, even though it is right now, but let's just say it wasn't. What you can do is you can sort of hold down your mouse, select on the particular row, and then just simply slide up. Perfect. And as you guys can see, this is adjusting on the fly right there. So again, you can delete each one as well. There isn't a way to like delete all, but you do have to delete one by one. But yeah, so that is sort of that overview of the data list. To kind of go back as well, you guys, you can simply click on what they call that breadcrumb up there, and that will bring you back. If you wanted to change the name of directory, again, what I do, you guys, I double click in here, and then there's this edit button right here, and you can just simply change the name and then just hit save. So that's sort of the overview of the data list. If you guys have any additional questions, definitely give us a call. Otherwise, I hope you guys have a great day. Thank you.